Alright, welcome back to Grim Advice with Gretta Myers. You've entered the grimoire. With two M's, let's turn the page together. Alright, so on Saturday I did tell you, because I knew off the top of my head, that Rumpelstiltskin is today. Woo! Alright, but let me slate the rest of the week for you. Today, Rumpelstiltskin. Tomorrow, Sweetheart Roland. Then the Golden Bird. Then the Dog and the Sparrow. And then Frederick and Catherine. Those all seem like normal, boring story titles. So we'll see if... Nah, they're not going to be that grim. So... Okay. Without further ado, Rumpelstiltskin. Once there was a miller who was poor, but who had a beautiful daughter. Now it happened that he had to go and speak to the king, and in order to make himself appear important, he said to him, "I have a daughter who can spin straw into gold." The king said to the miller, "That is an art which pleases me well. If your daughter is as clever as you say, bring her tomorrow to my palace, and I will try what she can do." And when the girl was brought to him, he took her into a room which was quite full of straw, gave her a spinning wheel and a reel, and said, "Now set to work, and if by tomorrow morning early you have not spun this straw into gold during the night, you must die." Thereupon he himself locked up the room and left her in it alone. So there sat the poor miller's daughter, and for the life of her could not tell what to do. She had no idea how straw could be spun into gold, and she grew more and more miserable until at last she began to weep. But all at once the door opened, and in came a little man and said, "Good evening, Mistress Miller. Why are you crying so?" "Alas," answered the girl, "I have to spin straw into gold, and I do not know how to do it." "What will you give me?" said the mannikin, "if I do it for you?" "My necklace," said the girl. The little man took the necklace, seated himself in front of the wheel, and whir, 3 turns, and the reel was full. Then he put another on, and whir, 3 times round, and the second was full too. And so it went on until morning, when all the straw was spun, and all the reels were full of gold. By daybreak the king was already there, and when he saw the gold he was astonished and delighted, but his heart became only more greedy. He had the miller's daughter taken into another room full of straw, which was much larger, and commanded her to spin that also in one night if she valued her life. The girl knew not how to help herself, and was crying when the door again opened, and the little man appeared and said, "What will you give me if I spin that straw into gold for you?" "The ring on my finger," answered the girl. The little man took the ring again and began to turn the wheel, and by morning had spun all the straw into glittering gold. The king rejoiced beyond measure at the sight, but still he had not enough gold, and he had the miller's daughter taken into a still larger room full of straw, and said, "You must spin this too in the course of this night, but if you succeed, you shall be my wife." And he thought, "Even if she be a miller's daughter, I could not find a richer wife in the whole world." When the girl was alone, the mannikin came again for the 3rd time, and said, "What will you give me if I spin the straw for you this time also?" "I have nothing left that I could give," answered the girl. "Then promise me, if you should become queen, your first child." "Who knows whether that will ever happen," thought the miller's daughter, and not knowing how else to help herself in this strait, she promised the mannikin what he wanted, and for that he once more span the straw into gold. And when the king came in the morning and found all as he had wished, he took her in marriage, and the pretty miller's daughter became a queen. A year after, she had a beautiful child, and she never gave a thought to the mannikin. But suddenly he came into her room and said, "Now give me what you promised." The queen was horror-struck, and offered the mannikin all the riches of the kingdom if he would leave her to the child. But the mannikin said, "No, something that is living is dearer to me than all the treasures in the world." Then the queen began to weep and cry, so that the mannikin pitied her. "I will give you 3 days' time," said he. "If by that time you find out my name, then you shall keep your child." So the queen thought the whole night of all the names that she had ever heard, and she sent a messenger over the country to inquire far and wide for any other names that there might be. When the mannikin came the next day, she began with Caspar, Melchior, and Balthazar, and said all the names she knew, one after another, but to everyone the little man said, "That is not my name." On the second day, she had inquiries made in the kingdom as to the names of the people there, and she repeated to the mannequin the most uncommon and curious. Perhaps your name is Short Ribs, or Sheepshanks, or Lace Leg? But he also always answered, that is not my name. On the third day, the messenger came back again and said, I have not been able to find a single new name, but as I came to a high mountain at the end of the forest, where the fox and the hare bid each other good night, there I saw a little house, and before the house a fire was burning, and round about the fire quite a ridiculous little man was jumping. He hopped upon one leg and shouted, Today I bake, tomorrow brew, the next I'll have the young queen's child. Ha! Glad am I that no one knew that Rumpelstiltskin I am styled. You may think how glad the queen was when she heard the name. And when soon afterwards the little man came and asked, Now, Mistress Queen, what is my name? At first she said, Is your name Conrad? No. Is your name Harry? No. Perhaps your name is Rumpelstiltskin. The devil has told you that. The devil has told you that, cried the little man in his anger, and he plunged his right foot so deep into the earth that his whole leg went in, and then in rage he pulled at his left leg so hard with both hands that he tore himself in two. This one also is one that does not get dumbed down very much for kids. Yeah. Yeah. This one I think I knew the ending to when I was like a little kid. I was like, oh yeah, he tears himself in two, my goodness. Okay. First off, the dad. He's like, I want to feel important, so my daughter can spin straw to gold. That makes your daughter look important, one, not you. Like, he's like, oh, I'll feel important by saying my daughter is important. No, that just makes her look important. Second, he had an opportunity to back down because the king's like, if she really can do that, bring her tomorrow. Like, he didn't say, I'll kill you if you don't. So he could have totally been like, oh, it's not really, like, just not go back to the king. But instead, he's like, yeet, here's my daughter. I really don't know what to say except I don't like him. I mean, he's valid. Yeah, he's valid. Kings are scary, he's intimidating, he wants to impress, and then he just is really not smart, and then he feels he can't go back, and sure, it makes sense, it's valid, it's just really annoying, and I... Okay, second off, every time I said mannequin, it was M-A-N-I-K-I-N. I don't know what it means. But if I had to guess, kin to man. So like a man, but like wasn't, like an elf or something. If I had to guess, that's me guessing. But like, he doesn't conceal it at all. Unlike, you know, in some of the Grimm stories, like, the devil was like, I'll have what's, like, sitting in front of your oak tree. And he's like, yeah, that can't be anything important. No, the Rumpelstiltskin was very blatantly honest. He's like, I want your child. And she still said, like, granted, she would have died. You know, but she knew the consequences, but she justified. Here's where we at. She sat there and was like, she justified, you know? She's like, who knows if that's ever gonna happen? It probably won't. Whatever. Maybe I can't have kids. Maybe the king's gonna kill me anyways. He's gonna just keep doing it. Doing this until... You know? Like, I'll just keep doing this until she dies, you know? Like, that could have been her thought process. However, you know, and let me come back to that in a second. I like that it gives us the examples of the names. Like, she starts with, you know, the names of the 3 wise men, supposedly, Caspar, Melchior, and Balthazar. And then short rib, sheepshanks, or lace leg. And then at the very end, is it Conrad? Is it Harry? And then she's like, is it Rumpelstiltskin? He's like, dang it! Ah, I hate when my actions have lasting consequences, you know? You know? Is there anything else I want to say before I come back to what I've realized is probably my main point? No, I guess I really just like this version a lot better than other versions of Rumpelstiltskin that are told. Like, where he told the king that because it was a punishment to his kid, or like the chick is a brat. Like, in every version you read, you're like, wow, I'm not sympathetic to her at all. Maybe it's just me, but like in some other versions I've read of Rumpelstiltskin, she's really annoying. And is totally high and entitled and is like, is a brat. And is really annoying. And so, like, at the end you're like, that sucks that her kid's taken away, but she kind of knew what she had coming. And maybe it's just the 21st century's penchant to give villains redemption arcs and make them seem sympathetic, which... Okay, I think it's cool to see the villain's reasoning why, to understand a little more, to understand that they're still human. However, I don't necessarily like that we have turned these villains into bad guys in saying, well, the ends justify the means. Or rather, because of how I grew up, or this thing that happened to me, I can be a terrible person. You know, like, it's good to have villains that you're like, wow, I understand that because someone makes a terrible choice, there's typically a reason. However, yeah, it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. So maybe I am just thinking about all the times where Rumpelstiltskin's really humanoid. Because when I was a kid, I read lots of versions of Rumpelstiltskin where he, like, it was, you know, one of those, make the villain the hero of the story, and there was a whole book on just Rumpelstiltskin. There was like 8 different versions, and there were several of the versions that made you really feel for Rumpelstiltskin, and turned the miller's daughter into a brat, and so you wouldn't sympathize with her. And I guess I really like seeing that, no, she was a good, kind person, and that doesn't necessarily make Rumpelstiltskin outright evil. Like, he still helped her. Granted. And he does say, something that is living is dearer to me than all the treasures in the world. Like, he puts human life above, like, living things above riches, which, as humans, we sometimes forget about that. However, at the end in his song, it's like, today I bake, tomorrow I brew. It's not entirely clear what his Like, he doesn't outright say, I'm going to eat the child, but he doesn't outright not say it either. So I'm not saying, I am by no means saying that Rumpelstiltskin was a good guy in the story. I am, however, dialectic toast saying that he wasn't a horrible, unsympathetic, unrelatable villain. Right? Like, he was kind to her. He was like, I'll give you 3 days to guess my name, which he figured was an impossible task, but he still gave her a chance. And in the end, he absolutely, like, was like, you won. Was he mad about it? Absolutely. I mean, wouldn't you be? If someone figured out your name. Yeah. But, like, he didn't try to take the child anyways. He was just frustrated. You know, it's hard. Okay, what was I even saying that I was like, this is gonna be my main point? Oh, the justifying. Like, she was like, this will never happen. Maybe I won't have kids. So going back to that for a second, like, sure, maybe it wouldn't happen, but if you're gonna try and live your entire life on a justification, maybe this will never come to light. Maybe this will be fine. Maybe. No. As you can see, most of the times, the maybe comes to a big fat, and it happened. You know, man, this story, despite having heard it 1,000 times, it still is a difficult one to read. Probably because it's very relatable. Like, you look at this and you're like, wow, I could see myself doing this in this situation. Yeah, there's a lot you can get from this one. So I'll let you get what you get out of it. For me, I've done a lot of thinking about Rumpelstiltskin, and I appreciate how they showed him as not like this I don't want to say irredeemable, because we say that so often, like, let's redeem this villain, and we'll get into that, but he has good qualities. And the princess isn't a brat, and I don't know, I am stumped. I am frazzled. Yeah, so I'm gonna leave it at that. Let you draw your own moral quandaries from this. Yeah. Thank you for joining us for another happily ever after, or not so happily ever after, or just a befuddlement. That's probably not the right word. Either way is valid. It's up to you. It's up for you to decide. You're valid. You're valid. You are. Either way, this is the end for the episode, so tune in later and we can learn more and turn a new page together. See you later.